Good Sunday evening, all of Montreal. This is the Suburban Radio News Hour, and I'm here with my colleagues Anthony Bonaparte, features editor, Mark Lidbetter, sports editor, and we'll be getting all the entertainment and society news from the one and only Mike Cohen. First of all, let me wish everybody a meaningful and a happy Easter on this day. It's been quite a week of news throughout the West End, West Island, Centre City. More problems with the mayor. We've got a tremendous legal action in Ottawa by the Wallenberg Centre. Brendan Silver, great international young legal attorney, who's asking Ottawa to prosecute Hamas on behalf of murdered Montrealers. I'm actually not doing this from memory. I'm purposely turning the pages of the newspaper. I hope you like the crisp sound, the crisp and crackling sound of news as you're turning it and you're holding it in your fingers. We've got coverage of the La Presse anti-Semitic cartoon and the reactions and why it was taken down and how it was taken down. There's a problem with Côte-des-Neiges' night shelter project after a woman's death. Seniors being scammed in parking lots in the West Island is a major issue out there. But first, I'm very pleased to have Mayor Alex Patashi of DDO, Dollar des Ormeaux, on as our special guest, because the West Island has been suffering, as have other parts of the West End and West Island, from the Plante administration. We've talked about it before. This is a Centre City mayor in Valerie Plante who has spent $250 million acquiring green space in Pierrefonds that was designated for affordable housing for young families for 25,000 people. She's cut the parking to the major REM station and told people, well, they can't park there. Now they can't even drive there. They've got to take a bus or carpool. And Mayors DDO, Kirkland, Point Clara voted against her whole planning system. But Mayor Patashi has very eloquently said this mayor's understanding of planning and what's necessary for the West Island and West End is disjointed. Mayor Alex Patashi, congratulations for your courage for saying that. Tell Montreal what you want this mayor to do and what, if anything, we can hope she does.
Well, for my part, I need action from her side, which is, to recognize our major boulevards, what recently came up in her revamp of an urban plan, that she's not going to deem Sources, St. John's, or St. Charles as a conduit, as a major artery to which would designate it to have additional mass transportation.
Yes, yet they are. I mean,
transport.
So she's not recognizing something that's been a fact for decades. They are major arteries.
Correct. And so that, and then coupled with an ask that we've had on the table since 1982, to which Montreal has decided to remove it off their books, is the famous Jacques Vizard corridor.
I was just going to ask about that.
We need a north-south connection between south of the 40 and north of the 40 in order to connect the two communities, in order to give Fairview future REM station a chance to thrive and be successful as a REM station. If you don't give it access, I don't know how it's going to be successful.
Particularly in light of the fact that, I'm going to get the name wrong, but what is it, Rue Antoine Foucault, that goes down to the REM station? She has said cars can't use, only buses, bikes, and pedestrians? Yeah.
She is completely disconnected and disjointed to the realities of the West Island, and it has to stop. And this has to end where Montreal dictates to the West Island. I believe that we're all very big boys and girls in the West Island. We know exactly what we need in the West Island. It's up to us to decide, not for her.
Absolutely. And I want to point out again the story we broke some time ago, that 38% of the residents of the island of 12% of the residents of the island of Montreal pay 38% of the expenses. Guess where those residents live? Not in the Ville de Montréal, on the Ile de Montréal. Alex Patashi, Mayor of Dollar des Ormeaux, thank you for being a voice of sanity and reason. And let's keep this ball rolling, Montrealers. Everybody listening, give Mayor Patashi of DDO and Mayor Gibson of Kirkland and Tim Thomas of Point Claire and even Jim Bass, the mayor of Pierrefonds.
Yes,
they are all facing this frustration of a inner city mayor that wants West Island money, does not want to give West Island services or recognize any reality but her own.
Yep.
Alex Patashi, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. Okay, so never does City Hall in Montreal fail to provide good stories, good press, and a lot of aggravation. Here we are in the Suburban News Hour, continuing what seems to be a theme this week in the paper, and certainly today. So you heard Mayor Alex Patashi talk about the frustrations of Pointe-Claire, Kirkland, DDO, Pierrefonds with what they call the disjointed Valerie Plante planning. And of course, one of the big issues has been taxation. And I'm joined now by my colleague Joel Chiashu, who's written a marvelous front page story. You have to read this story. The reaction of a Projet Montréal senior official to a question by an activist citizen on the unfair quote part taxation of boroughs and demerged cities, and the Projet Montréal guy's reaction was, it is what it is. Joel Chiashu, welcome. Good talking to you.
What do you need me for? You just gave away the...
Well, you're going to give us the behind-the-scenes stuff,
okay.
Jay.
So Alex Montagano, for those who don't know...
a very shy and retiring fellow, right?
A very shy, reclusive fellow. An NDG contractor, a perennial political candidate, and an activist who's been hammering the borough and the city about what he says is the Côte-de-Neige Notre-Dame-de-Grâce getting shafted on transfers, on financing. Now, he brought his message to City Hall downtown last week, and it was really something for the following reason. He got an answer. He asked why is the formula so skewed, and why are the boroughs not getting their fair share? And the answer, essentially, the answer that came, from Luc Raboin, the mayor of Plateau Montréal, and the city's point person on finances on the executive committee, he answered, "It is what it is." Now,
astounding. That's going to, Joel. That's going to go down. That phrase that you captured, that's going to go down in history.
What's interesting is Montagano made his question to Valerie Plante, and he asked her. He said, "Madame Plante, Madame Valerie Plante, what are you doing to right this wrong?"
And she recognized who she was, right? She was in total control of her senses.
She didn't answer, so there's no way to know.
Right.
Rabois stood up in her stead. But he did say, he agrees that the system is unfair. He said that if you ask every borough mayor, this was Luc Rabois speaking, if you ask every borough mayor, I think they'll all agree that the system is unfair. So they acknowledge it's unfair. They say they've been working on fixing it. Montagano noticed that this is the second year of a second Projet Montréal mandate, and we still have this unjust system. Now, what's interesting is I don't know one Montreal politician who I've spoken with or who I've listened to ever defend the current system. So, with a nod to our friend and colleague, Stephen Balena, it's like the weather. Everybody talks about it, but nobody does anything about it.
Right.
So the city is promising to make something happen. But what came up in the discussion was also very interesting, that Ville-Marie, which is by default led by Montreal Mayor Valerie Plante, whoever is the Montreal mayor at the time becomes the de facto mayor of Ville-Marie Borough, has a total property values of $64 billion. And 40% of those properties, according to city documents that Montagano deposited at City Hall, 40% are non-residential, more than double the city average, which means that the borough can generate far higher revenues than others, yet still collect larger transfers from the central city for operational costs. So therefore, it's rewarding itself for having low taxes. And meanwhile, other boroughs like Côte-de-Neige are getting... Côte-de-Neige itself, Côte-de-Neige Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, the most populous borough on the island of Montreal of the 19, receives the lowest amount per capita in transfers from the center city. So this is what got Montagano started, but really the response was stunning.
It was a stunning response. This is a story
I know. They promised to do better. They said it's going to take some time, that they inherited the problem, that they're going to fix it, that they're going to do better, but it's very complicated. It's very difficult.
But this is a story that's going to continue, and you're going to be back on and writing about it and talking about it. And just to remind Montrealers, even on this Easter Sunday, this is the only major city in North America, over 1 million people, where more than 70% of city revenues come from property taxes, because we don't do business. So I don't know what. She's been promising to do something for 6 years. Nothing's been done. Joel Chiashu, thanks very much for being with us and being on the story.
Take care.
Checks in the mail. The other big story, besides the frustration with City Hall, is what's been happening throughout the riding of Mount Royal, particularly since last week's odious vote on the Middle East by the Federal Liberal Party, the Liberal NDP motion. And Joel Goldenberg, you've been in the thick of it on the ground. So we had the Liberal NDP motion. We had the Federal Liberal lies that it was not going to be binding, that it was going to be a free vote. They whipped the vote. They took a non-binding resolution, stopped arms sales to Israel. Anthony Housefather, the MP for Mount Royal, which encompasses as a riding so much of the West End, makes a courageous speech. Pierre Poilievre comes into Mount Royal to a standing room only packed hall. What's been the feeling on the ground about the reaction to the Liberals, the reaction to Poilievre's speech, and most of all, what people you're talking to think how Anthony Housefather should do?
Well, it ranges from Anthony should be independent to Anthony should join the Conservatives. But it's intensified, but it's not new because almost ever since Anthony became an MP, people have been saying he should cross over, he should leave the Liberals. And, after the blackface scandal with Trudeau, after the ethics scandal, after the SNC Lavalin scandal, people have said, we should change Canada's electoral system so that, people can vote for Anthony, but not for the federal Liberals. It's been like that for years, but now it's intensified with Anthony's vote against Bill C-13. Other stances he's taken that have been contrary to the party, and the fact he was demoted and then he got back a parliamentary secretary position. But it's been going on for years, but now it's at the warp speed.
We made the point in our editorial this week that what the Liberal NDP motion did is in drawing a moral equivalency between, which it did literally between Israel and Hamas, is it gave license to anti-Semitic sentiment, which we saw in the La Presse cartoon, which was, yes, taken down very quickly, but are you getting any reaction to this? Is like a series of dominoes that happened in 1 week? The Liberal motion, a Liberal NDP motion, Anthony's speech, the cartoon from La Presse, Poilievre coming into the riding and saying things that people really wanted to hear, that people feel, particularly the amount of the population that is Jewish, feels totally put upon in this city with a mayor who has not said a word condemning anti-Israel demonstrations that just devolve into anti-Semitic hate fests. Is this building up to a boiling point right now for Anthony Housefather and the riding?
It seems like it. I mean, I was there. You were there at the Beth Israel Beth Aaron Synagogue. You got thunderous applause. Numerous standing ovations. Federation CJA's Steve Sabag gave a revealing introduction to him in which he condemned liberals and praised the conservatives. I mean, it seems like the ground is shifting. I mean, the intensity is quite staggering, actually.
You've had any indications from Anthony Housefather?
Not yet, but he's being...
aside from what he said about being in reflection.
Not yet. He's keeping it close to the chest for now. I heard he might make a decision before April the 8th. But, as you might know, Mayor Jeremy Levi from Hampstead has been prodding him on Twitter on numerous occasions. He jokingly said, I endorse the Conservative candidate for Mount Royal, and I hope it's Anthony Housefather. Or when Anthony said he was hopping between parties for Purim, Jeremy Levi said, hopping between parties is a lot of fun, even if it's not Purim.
Well, this is going to be a continuing story and something to watch. I don't. By the way, why April the 8th? Is that because Parliament is coming back from the Easter break?
That's what I believe I've heard. Yeah.
Joel Goldenberg, thank you for this and all your work. I know you're going to continue to watch this, and we'll be right back on the Suburban Radio Hour with my colleague Anthony Bonaparte. And right now, we flip to see what's on the roads. We go to traffic.